Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Cash That. This is your host, Joe Dellera, and this episode is once again brought to you by our good friends at Rhythm. Rhythm is the number one betting tool, AI betting tool in the market right now, and you can get it for free for a week. Link down here in the bio. It's going to actually be super helpful for you. I know we got a lot of gambling degenerates in here, and we're obviously betting the NBA. A lot of you guys know a lot about the NBA. You know the players, like some of the trends, you know the matchups, you know all the teams, whatever. The season's almost over. You know what's starting this week? The WNBA. And Rhythm has some of the best tools. I've gotten a little bit of a peek under the cover. The tools are actually going to go live tomorrow, but for the WNBA. Sides, totals, player props, you need it because I know you guys need that action, so you may as well be informed and get it for free. Test it out for free for a week with the link down here. I'm sure you're gonna like it, and you can get 20. Come back, there's another link, 25% off your first month. So that's all through Rhythm. I will start with that just briefly though. So I'm going to be doing some WNBA content once the NBA season ends. I'll probably get like a little bit of future stuff out there. If you're in the huddle, you got some crazy value on a couple things like Angel Reese, rebounds leader, was like basically even money, and now it's like minus 700 or something outrageous. So definitely will put out some stuff. Did put out some awards and did take a couple like of those series or like the season leader type of markets. So there's definitely a little bit of value to be had. And we'll touch on some of the, maybe some of the early season things that I think might happen. I'll probably have a bet or two out for opening night. So that's on Friday, I think. So we'll get some stuff out for you, especially if it looks like some of these series are going to wrap up for the NBA. So I might actually have a little bit more time. Let's talk about the NBA. My glasses are dirty. The first thing that we really need to touch on, which sucks, but Tatum is out for the rest of the year. Torn Achilles. And it sucks because the Knicks were going to beat the Celtics anyway, I think. And no, now it's just, you want to beat them when they're at their best. So that sucks. It sucks for Tatum as well, 27 years old, about to be in like the prime of his career. Boston, obviously new ownership. And now you have the situation where your best player is probably out not only this year, but then all of next year too, I would imagine. And you're a second apron team. You have a ton of obligations financially, and you don't even know if you can really keep the team together. So they're in a situation where I think ownership really has to look at it and say, like, are we gonna bring this back? Are we gonna keep Porzingis? Are we gonna keep Drew Holiday? Do we want to keep the Jays together? Like, what are we going to do? And they're at a crossroads. I think they're going to have a very interesting offseason. And if Boston does decide that they want to break it up a little bit, that's going to open up a lot of things for the rest of the league, honestly, especially the Eastern Conference. We'll be curious to see maybe where some of those players go, how they fit, etc. Then we obviously have the NBA draft lottery that is definitely not rigged. And I saw a tweet, it was very funny, and it was like, if you think the NBA draft lottery is rigged, and you're saying that it's rigged, then you're saying that Ernst & Young is like committing fraud. It's like, I think like a couple of years ago, they actually had associates get prosecuted basically for committing fraud. It's just hilarious. But anyway, Dallas Mavericks win the lottery. They're going to get Cooper Flag. They've already said so. So Nico Harrison gets the ultimate bailout. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in Dallas. We'll see what kind of moves that they're able to make. And Philly also keeps their pick. Philly actually moved up in the draft lottery, which is interesting because Gershon Yabusele is somebody that I think they want to keep. Because the pick actually got better, they are getting like really dangerously close to jumping up an apron level, in which case they might not be able to keep Yabusele. So I'm curious to see if they maybe trade back a couple slots, maybe with like Utah or some team like that. But I would imagine getting, maybe Ace Bailey at the 3 it's got to be, like, you have to want to do that if you're Philly. Curious to see what they do. Then the other thing that obviously happened today, or a little bit earlier before this podcast, obviously, is the Indiana Pacers advanced in the playoffs. Oh, Wait. And then Giannis soft launching, basically saying that he wants out of Milwaukee and wants to go to a contender, doesn't want to pay income tax. It sounds a lot like a Houston type of deal. It sounds a lot like a maybe the Spurs would be involved. Obviously, any trade that involves Giannis is going to be groundbreaking. It is going to be a monster deal. And you have to wonder, maybe the Dallas Mavericks wish they had Luka Doncic still to trade for Giannis. So really, really interesting situation there, but we shall see. So Indiana obviously advanced. They beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. And as a point of reference for all of you, we gave out Donovan Mitchell to score 40 plus points in any game at a variety of different odds. I think there was like a plus 300, a plus 220, like whatever. So he did that twice in the series. So the bet should have cashed. This bet was on MGM, and MGM graded it as a loss. I'm currently telling MGM that they're wrong and this needs to be corrected. So be sure to just if you checked your account, this should be an easy fix, but just make sure if you bet it, check your account, make sure that you either got paid out for it, or if you didn't, then make sure that you go back and remind them that they need to pay you for it. And that's just one of the things. It's unfortunate with a lot of these markets, but you really need to keep an eye on what they're grading out, what they're giving you as a win, how they're operating, cover your rear end to make sure that you get paid out for the amounts that you're supposed to. So just something to keep an eye on. Indiana was able to advance. I think the interesting thing is that Indiana, if we look at the NBA Finals, they're still plus 700 despite advancing. They were like plus 1,000 today, a little bit earlier before they eliminated the Cleveland Cavaliers, but now they're plus 700. So I think that's a little bit interesting. Oklahoma City takes a 3-2 lead after a monster comeback in the fourth quarter against the Denver Nuggets. They are now minus 140 in the market to win the NBA title. Then you have the New York Knicks plus 490, Minnesota 6-1, Boston 26-1, Denver 29-1, Golden State 190-1. I don't think Golden State really has a chance. I do think this 190-1 is a little crazy. Like Minnesota should absolutely close them out in Game 5. The problem is if they don't, then all of a sudden Steph Curry comes back. You have to imagine that impacts some of these spreads moving forward. I don't think I really like it. I still don't think that they have really much of a chance at all, but the 190-1 does seem to be like a touch. I think it's a touch off. So I would consider that, or I maybe use them as like the back end of like an NBA Finals type of matchup where if you went they're going to lose to the Knicks or the Pacers, something like that. Or if you just said Knicks versus Warriors or Pacers versus Warriors, those odds are insane. Those odds are like 170-1 and 650 and 140-1. So just something to kind of keep an eye on. Let's take a look at these games for Wednesday. So the Knicks are 4.5-point road dogs, the Boston Celtics. They don't have Jayson Tatum, so this line has shifted pretty significantly. Tatum has had one of the best on-off splits of the entire postseason out of the major players in the NBA. It's like a 25-point swing in terms of net rating. So his impact, I think, is really important. I think if we were looking at it from a prop perspective, you could definitely look at Derek White. I think that his prop at over 18.5 is definitely viable. I was a little concerned, though, because I think that even with the extra volume, he hasn't necessarily gone over it without Tatum this season. So the key is that he's probably going to play 40 minutes, and that's the biggest bump for him. But I don't love it. I also think this game could maybe get out of hand kind of quickly, as Tatum is great on both sides of the basketball. I think he's a good defender as well. So that's something that could help New York get a little bit of run, and I'll touch on that in a minute. The other spot is maybe Peyton Pritchard, 13.5 points. I think that kind of makes a little bit more sense since Sam Hauser's out or kind of banged up. Kristaps Porzingis has been playing random minutes, but not as many as he normally would if he was healthy. And then obviously you don't have Tatum. So I think that Pritchard is definitely a viable option for this as well. I was thinking in my brain was, Tatum is such a good defensive player. And I think that his defensive impact a lot of times goes underrated because people are just looking at him as an offensive talent, or so to speak. I think that maybe you can go with like a Mikal Bridges type of spot and go for Bridges over 14.5 points, as he's so good in the mid range. He's able to kind of get to his spots. He's somebody that you don't always throw the best defender on, but if Tatum's not on the floor, then that means, maybe it's not Drew Holiday, maybe it's not Derek White, maybe it's not Jaylen Brown, and he's able to get like maybe a couple extra possessions on a Peyton Pritchard, or, Hauser's not going to play. On like that type of matchup, like a bad kind of switch with maybe Porzingis or Horford or like even Cornette. So I think the Bridges is a little bit interesting at like 14 and a half points. And that's where I would want to be looking for a Knicks prop in this game. Alternatively, I think that Cat has been really interesting. The Cat and Mitchell Robinson minutes have been weird because Tibbs closed the game with Mitchell Robinson for the most part until it was like mostly out of reach, and then they put Cat in, I think, at a point where they thought they were going to start fouling. I think it's important to recognize too, like when you're watching these games, because I gave out Cat over 11 and a half rebounds last game, and he was sitting at 11 really the entire fourth quarter. And I was watching and I was like, oh, like this lineup's working. I don't think that Tibbs is going to pull Mitch. So I live bet the under on under 11 and a half rebounds, got it at plus money. I wound up making more money on the under than on the over, just out of the buyout. And I think it's one of the things like where you wouldn't normally pick that up if you weren't watching the game. But if you're watching the game, you're like, oh, the Knicks are like kind of crushing with this lineup right now. We need to just continue to run it out there. And I think that that's something that you really only get when you're watching the game. And I think it also happens a little bit more in the playoffs than you would think, because teams are just like, we have to win this game. We're not going to, it doesn't matter if we upset somebody's feelings or, rock the boat a little bit rotationally at the end of a game when we're winning. Because at the end of the day, all anybody cares about is winning. And I think that was one of the things about this spot for both Cat and Mitchell Robinson. So Mitch definitely saw an uptick in his minutes. Defense was exceptional in this game, but you don't know if that's 100% going to hold for next game. So I don't want to play any unders for like either of them, but Cat looked good despite the thumb. He was still getting his shots up. He was getting to the rim, being aggressive, and, he still pulled down 11 rebounds. So I think that if I'm looking at this, New York really wants to close the game out, obviously, close the series out, obviously, in 5, get this over with, especially with Indiana wrapping their series up as well. It still wouldn't totally surprise me to see Boston pull off a win, just because of the way that they run their offense. And Tatum hasn't been shooting the 3-ball great. He did shoot the ball and play really well last time out until he got hurt. But overall, he's been effective this series, but not so much as a scorer. He's been relatively inefficient. So I do wonder if, maybe without Tatum, ball maybe moves a little bit more freely, maybe it's a little bit less sticky. I'm not saying that Boston is a better team without Tatum. I'm just saying that they still have options with the way that they run offense and the amount of threes that they take, that they still would be pretty live in this spot. Looking at the Grizzlies, at the Timberwolves versus the Golden State Warriors, the spot that I'm so frustrated with last game is I gave out Rudy Gobert 4+ first quarter rebounds at like plus 145. Great number. He had 5, 5, and 7 in the first quarter each game previously. Has 4, gets stat corrected as soon as the first quarter ends, back to 3, and then we lose the bet. And I was watching the game, and he definitely, I don't know, I get that he kind of does the thing, like the tip thing, where it's a little bit subjective about, is that one a rebound and a shot attempt? Does nobody have the ball? What is it? And I think we kind of got screwed on that, but it certainly felt like he had more than 3 rebounds. So I think I don't mind that look if you wanted to go back to that. Oh, the other thing was in Boston, New York. I don't mind Jaylen Brown over 3.5 turnovers. I think he's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. He's probably going to force the issue a little bit. I also think that now without Tatum, you can throw OG Anunoby either on him or on Derek White, and they're going to be in hell. They are going to be actually in hell. So I that's kind of why I'm hesitating on a Derek White prop or a Jaylen Brown points prop. But I think that I would maybe look at the turnovers over 3.5 for Jaylen Brown, who already has a little bit of a propensity to turn the ball over. So back to Warriors Wolves. Anthony Edwards finally decided to score in the first half last game. Julius Randle has just been incredible in this series. And for me, I was looking at Julius Randle again. His points prop is at 21.5. I still think that that's viable. I mean, in this series, he scored 18, 24, 24, and 31 points. And he's also been like decent on the glass. The assists have also been solid. Last game, though, he only had 3 assists on 4 potentials. So I would have to dig into the numbers a little bit more there, but I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that Anthony Edwards was just absolutely breaking him down. So definitely kind of looking there. Jonathan Kuminga has been playing real minutes for the Warriors, 26 minutes, 35 minutes, and then 30 minutes last game. He's put up 18, 30, and 23 points in those 3 games where he's gotten meaningful minutes. So I think that Kuminga at over 17.5 points is a viable play if you're looking for something on the Warriors side. And then the biggest question is like, look, Jimmy Butler had one good game really in this series. He put up 33 points in 2 games ago. 33, what was it? 33, 7, and 7. Great game, right? Last game though, 14 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. That's just, it's not going to cut it. And I think at the end of the day, Golden State is kind of like they have to win this game to get to a situation where you can maybe get Curry back. I don't see it. I really don't see it. I don't think that they're going to win this game. I don't think they have enough juice. I don't think they have enough offense to really be super effective in this spot. So I think that Golden State is kind of drawing dead here. And it's a little like unfortunate because I love watching Steph Curry play, but Podziemski can't buy a bucket. And if Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle are going to play the way that they've been, they have the 2 best offensive players in the series by like margin right now. So I think this is a very tough spot for Golden State. I think that Ant and Julius Randle both realize that Golden State doesn't really have anybody that's physical enough to defend either of them. And while Draymond Green is a pretty physical defender, Julius Randle's a bull. So you can't just throw Draymond Green at him and expect it to work like super well. And also, I think that as good as Randle has been, Golden State's kind of willing to live with him like putting up shots on offense. He's not like, again, he's not the most efficient player in the world. And I think that's something that they're going to try to do. So we'll kind of have to see what happens. As for Oklahoma City, Denver, I'm looking at that game that's coming up in a couple days now. Oklahoma City's up 3-2 on the series. I would fully expect Michael Porter Jr. to get that shot that he had been talking about before Game 6. It's possibly the last game of their season. I think that he's going to get that shot. He's going to leave it all out on the table. I would be looking at a Michael Porter Jr. like PRA or PR type of spot. I don't like the assist. He just doesn't dish the ball. And let's see if there's a lineup yet. There might be. Yeah. So his PR line right now is at 19. So it's 18.5. I'm probably going to grab that because I don't think we're even going to get it. Yeah, I'm probably going to grab that. I'm going to line shop it a little bit, but I think he's going to get that shot. I think he's going to be good to go. Denver's +5 at home. It's a home game. MPJ is generally played like pretty well at home. So I think this is a spot where you can say, all right, they absolutely need him to perform. Oh, wow, that is a wild line. Wow. All right. Well, we are going to hammer the fuck out of this one. DraftKings has under. They really just have the one-way market right now, and it's 19 plus for MPJ on PR is -120. FanDuel has the same line right now at 14.5 for -139 for -130. So I'm gonna like fully recommend this. I'm gonna grab this over at the 14.5. I just think that's a bad line. I think that's a little bit of an overreaction to how bad he was today. And I get why it reacted that way. He could not buy a bucket, but at the same time, I think that this line at 14.5 is just far too low. I get that the scoring has been brutal for him lately, and his points prop's only at 9.5. But if he gets this shot, I think that he could easily go over this PR line with just points. And we've honestly seen him put up double-digit rebounds as well. So he said he doesn't get it every game. He got it before Game 3. I believe that was or Game 4. He said that was the one that he thought was super important. Last game of the season, got to get it done. So I'm going to grab over 14.5 PR at FanDuel. So we'll have to kind of see how the schedule is looking. I think a lot of it's going to depend on how these games like wrap up. I do think trying to look at the schedule here. It looks like the Western Conference semifinals are gonna go still. They're still scheduled out until Monday and Tuesday. So I don't know if we skip forward or not after that. But let me take a look. Okay, so this is saying that basically right now in the Eastern Conference, the series start could move up to May 19th. And for the Western Conference, the series start could move up to May 18th. So right now, the game ones are tentatively scheduled for May 20th for the West and May 21st for the East. I do think that if we do see these games get closed out, these would be moving up a little bit. So for reference, anyway, the 19th is Monday and the 18th is this Sunday. So just something to keep an eye out for. I don't think that I'll have a full preview for then, but I think what I'll probably have done is I will do it'll either be like for game 2 or post game 2 type of update. Plus we'll have buckets on Sunday night anyway. So you're going to get plenty of news right off the bat. But if you want the series player props, be sure to join the huddle so that way you get the best ones. We cashed some crazy ones today. Like we hit Mobley on the series rebounding leader, and we doubled down even after he missed the game. Donovan Mitchell, scoring leader, his points per game, everything's really been doing really well with those series leader type of markets and the series player props. Be sure to get that. There's a link down here in the bio for a little bit of a trial. For pods and recs, I am going to recommend hiring somebody to do your lawn. I've been trying to cut my grass forever. I was doing it, and honestly, I'm too busy. Like I was like, I don't have bandwidth for this. But I was like, I also don't really want to pay anybody to cut it every week. I don't think that's necessary. I think it's just too much. So found these guys to cut it twice a month. If I need them sooner, I can just hit them up. I think that's a perfect ratio for me, and I'm so fine with that. So very, very happy about this transaction. I think it's well worth it. Additionally, I am going to recommend, you know what, this is a little bit of a weird one, but my wife's grandma, who I call Nan, she made these baked beans, and they were absolutely unbelievable. They had like bacon in them and everything. I'm gonna recommend baked beans. They're pretty good. I feel like right now you're kind of getting into like the start of, for depending on where you live, like you're kind of in grilling season right now. Baked beans, with a little bit of rice, or like with a hot dog or something like that. Dynamite. Maybe a piece of grilled chicken. Great. So gonna recommend baked beans. I feel like it's never something I'm going out of my way to order. I don't even really make it myself. I know it's not that hard to make, but I do like them. I think they're kind of filling. They taste good. And I'm gonna recommend baked beans. Like, why not? Why not? Tis the season, it's grilling season. So guys, it's been great. This episode was a little bit tighter, wanted to keep it tight, but we will have a lot of good content coming out for the rest of the playoffs and for the WNBA season as that gets started. So be sure to continue to tune in, get the baked beans, and we'll continue to cash that.